Okay, so what I thought I'd do today is show how we can use just some recycled drives that are laying around, some external USB drives, and create ourselves a NAS, a network attached storage. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to create a virtual machine on our G1 through Proxmox, and it will be using Truenas scale, and that will be so that we can create our USB drive RAID. I tried Open Media Vault, but Open Media Vault says no, we're not going to let you do RAID on USB. So I said, okay, we'll go for Truenas scale instead. So we want to do a create VM. We'll just call it Truenas. We're going to grab from out on our network. I have a place that stores my various ISOs, and so I'm going to find the Truenas one that I've downloaded. Linux, everything's going to stay that way. The QEMO agent is already built in, so we can check that on. We'll go next. Truenas doesn't really need a whole lot of space, so we're going to go with just 32 gig is fine. I'm going to use the local SSD that's on there. And let's see. I try to give it at least 2 cores. That seems to be pretty well. It does need a minimum of 8 gig of memory, so I'm going to do the 8192. Network is fine. And we'll finish. Let it. Okay, here's our Truenas. We'll start it. Look at the console. Okay, we're going to do the installation. There are times in the middle where it seems like things kind of slow down, but just let it do its thing. At this point, we haven't done anything with the 2 USB drives. We're going to do that later. We'll come back to it. Okay, we want to install. Hit spacebar to choose. Yes. Administrator. Let's put our secret code. I always say yes to this. And this is the part that can take a little bit. Okay, so it looks like it wants to remove the installation media, which basically for us means going back into hardware, finding the CD, doing an edit, and say do not use media. And then we go back to the console, hit OK. Now we just need to go down to reboot system. Okay. This can also sometimes take a little bit coming up. Especially it will get to certain stage like here, 1 of 2, 2 of 2, where it just seems to kind of wait, but just be patient. Well, that was pretty quick. Maybe because I don't have a anything set up yet in it. But in the future as you're running it, if you ever have to reboot the particular, give it a couple minutes, be patient, and at worst you could always pop into the console to see what it's doing. Okay, so when you see this guy, you know that you're in the right spot. So you make a note of the this is the IP address that was assigned to it via DHCP. I would suggest that once we get into the interface, that we set the a hard-coded static IP, and I'll show you how to do that. So, but we want to go to 192. In this particular, obviously it's going to be different depending on what gets assigned on your network. But let's connect. Let's see, what was that? 122 or 222? Oh, 222. Okay. All right. And hopefully you did remember your password that you gave when you were signing up. Installing. Okay. We can see some just basic stuff that we've got an internet connection, how much memory is being used and is free. So the first thing I like to do is to get the network set up. So I'll go in here. I'll uncheck the DHCP. That opens up down here. I need to say add. Now I can put in my IP address that I've decided to use. I choose 24. I believe that I'm not far from knowledgeable on these, but 24 seems to be, I believe, the one that correlates to 255.0. So save that. Now it wants the gateway. I'll put in my router gateway. I can go into the settings. If I want to change the host name, we'll just leave it as Truenas for now. The domain, my particular domain is LAN. The name server, that should have already gotten filled in. If it's not, you might want to fill that in and then save it. Now, it's not going to do anything until you tell it to. You have to click on this test changes. And you're going to say confirm test changes. And now it's going to be sitting here. So what we want to do is we want to come back here. We want to log in again using the 80. And you kind of don't want to take this too long, because I believe if you take too long, it's going to revert. So now it says, oh, hey, everything worked. Okay, let's save it. Okay. So this is working, but we don't have any drives right now. So we're going to come back to this guy. We're going to go into hardware. We're going to say add USB device. And what I like to do is this one. It says use USB vendor device ID. So I'll click on here. Now remember, I already have the other two already set up. It's good to know, the manufacturer, etc. In our case, one of them is the Sabrent, so we can add that one. And then let's go back again. Let's go here. And the other one was a Toshiba. So let's add that one. Okay, now let's go back over to our Truenas. I think it's automatic, but we'll check. Let's see. Let's go to storage. Okay, there's no pools there. Let's go to data sets. No data sets. Okay. Let's go to disks. Oh, it does show them. Okay. One of the things I've heard with Truenas and these various ones is that you can use the external USB as long as it generates a unique serial number for each drive. Because I've heard that sometimes these external ones where you can I think Saubert might even sell one where you can stuff in 2 or 3 or 4 drives in there, and you can do fancy stuff with them. I don't know if they give, if because there's only one USB connector, you may not, it may not be seen as separate drives. So that's one thing. Now, what's kind of nice is that even though I stuck in, I'm using the Saubert device where I can just quickly stick in a drive from they've pulled out of a laptop. It still gives it a serial number. So let's do a few things before we start using this guy. I like to wipe the drives, so let's wipe this guy. The quick is fine. Confirm. Okay, that one's wiped. Let's see, close this. Let's go to this guy. Wipe, wipe. Okay. All right. Now, if we go to storage, let's see, data sets. No, okay. One of the, maybe I'm thinking of later on there, I guess if you have existing setups, it will show you, hey, these 2 drives aren't being used. But because we're completely fresh, let's create a pool. So the first thing we got to do is create a pool. So say create pool. It sees our 2 drives there. We'll call this guy PVE NAS 2 because I already have a PVE NAS normal. We're going to pick our 2 drives, click here. It pretty much automatically picks mirror. So, and just gives us, tells us that the estimated raw capacity, roughly 0.93 terabytes, 930 gig. Okay. And then we can say create, confirm, create pool. So there we've got a 1 mirror. Now we want to create a data set underneath that storage. So let's say add data set. And in our case, it's going to be SMB, and we're going to be using this for Windows. And you can keep all this as it is, all the various. The only one I like to change the share type and tell it specifically that's SMB. So let's save. Okay, now we've got this guy. We need some credentials. I haven't played with it too much. Supposedly you can set up so that your Windows will be able to use like your Microsoft credentials, but I've always just done it straight out. I just made some credentials that I could use for mounting, the particular drive. So let's go in. We'll create a local user. We'll just say add. We'll call it HMDT for Hand Me Down Tech. And we'll use the same HMDT for our super secret password. All right. Again, I'll kind of keep everything simple. So we'll do a save. Next we want to do is shares. Okay. So we want to create a Windows share. We'll say add. Path. We'll also do SMB. But this time we'll open this guy up and then we'll create it on that particular data set. Keep all the... okay. Now, it's going to need to be able to start the service. You want to have it automatically start. So we'll enable. Okay. And we now have a share out there. So let's give it, let's test it. Okay, one way I like to test it is I just do start, run. I do a double backslash, and then the IP address that we gave it. that pops up and asks for our credentials. So HMDT, HMDT. We'll remember our credentials. We'll say OK. OK, I like to test out a little bit of performance. So I'm actually going to pull it from a USB drive that's connected directly to my computer here that has a backup of my videos and copy that over to this SMB folder to see what kind of performance we get. Not bad. This is comparable to what I would get when I'm copying stuff to my normal NAS, and that's of course copying it to a RAID using more traditional internal drives. Now, one thing I also like to do is to go back and check on Truenas, and if I go to the dashboard, I can see what kind of performance I'm getting here too in terms of the network. And that's, comparable as far as, and you can even see the graph. Actually, this went the opposite way, but you'll see. I like to watch these numbers just to make sure they don't start going down, to a significant, 5 gigabits or 5 megabits a second or something. But usually it will average anywhere from 75 to 110. It will kind of, vacillate, but that's pretty good. You can see here how the CPU is handling stuff. You can see the memory. I don't know if you remember when we first came in here, there was a lot more free. Now it's actually trying to use some of that to speed up the speed of the actual copies and buffering and caching, et cetera, et cetera. So this looks pretty good. So now we can see our free space. Obviously, it's going down, but this is nice. A good way if you've got. I know that 1 terabyte is not these days not the biggest, but if you happen to have a couple terabyte drives, you can do a very simple external USB. Pick up some of those. Sovereign makes different ones. I'm not sponsored by them. I just use a lot of their products. Ones where you can turn those 2.5-inch laptop drives into, essentially external. Get a couple of those, or way back when, maybe you picked up a couple, like I did, a couple 2 terabytes for backups in other places, and now you want to reuse them. So now you could do those. You could do a couple of them, So I was curious to find out what would happen. I had another 1 terabyte drive that, so what I did is I took out of the Sovereign the 1 terabyte that had failed some of the smart tests, and I stuck in another one. Just curious to see what it would do. So right away it's saying, oh, wait a minute, there's a problem here. It's degraded. There's an unassigned disk. Looks like it shows this one unavailable. Says replace. So I wonder if I say replace and I grab this guy and I say replace disk, what's going to happen? In order to get everything back in order. Oh, and look up here. Let's see, I wonder, re-silvering. Let's see. Oh, okay, here we can see our status. Well, looked like it finished. Let's see. All right, if I go back to my storage, everything is back to normal. Let's see, our disks. look pretty good. Um, let's check to see the files that made it over. Let's see if our share is still there. That's pretty good. It's still there. Files are there. The ones that I'd been copying over from before. So that's a pretty good sign. I mean, the whole reason you have RAID is if something goes out, assuming both drives don't go bad at the same time, one can be used to rebuild the other, and that's what we just did and demonstrated. Didn't mean to do it as a demonstration, but that's peace of mind of myself too.